Trump getting concerned that Trump team is getting complacent and underestimating the power of Harris's social media team. I wouldn't worry about that. All they need to focus on is peace and prosperity, and that's it. Just hammer, 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 hammer. Immigration, economy sucks, war abroad. Immigration, economy sucks, war abroad. That's it. That's what people are going to vote on. People tend to forget because people that are part of our community and other similar comparable communities are really in the weeds on these issues. The normie voter is not. Heck, the normie voter is not even going to really tune in until like October. And even then, if you've, as I've mentioned with Richard Barris, usually whatever decision in fact, every time, the decision they made about a year before, one exception, the pandemic of 2020 skewering everything in 2020. But for that, they've always stuck with that decision. Why? Because they're voting on the economy and their sense of security. That's it. I mean, people are pretty obvious and predictable when it comes to presidential elections. So that's they don't really care about VP picks. I would say up to half of your normie independent voter who's going to be a swing voter won't even know who the VP is. Right? So the idea that they're really in the weeds, that policy on that thing, and no, it's not who they are. Just some core basic things. And the problem Harris has, economy sucks, war abroad, domestic unrest from uncontrolled immigration. That's a trilogy of horror. She's in a Bermuda Triangle of political disaster. It would be utterly unprecedented for her to somehow prevail. I mean, it really would. And that doesn't even get into her weaknesses, the limitations of her candidacy, the limitations of her campaign history, the limitations of her policy programs, the limitations of her public persona, all of those things. Just that's the Bermuda Triangle of death for politicians. Usually just one of the three kills you, sinks you. So, I mean, nobody has ever won with people having a negative view of the economy higher than negative 15. And it's more than negative 30. The highest level has been outside of 1932 and 2008. Think about that for a second. The economy is horrific for working class people. 40% of Americans are scared they cannot pay this week's bills. 40% of Americans, higher than at the worst in 2008. You're talking about a level we haven't seen since the Great Depression. And we haven't even seen the worst of the economy yet. And you think those voters are going to vote for Kamala Harris because of a social media ad? Right. That isn't how this works. Right? The reason why 2020 was close was because Trump went along with the lockdowns. That's simple. Or didn't push back heavily enough against it. I said so at the time if you were here. Or saw me in social media, because this started on Election Day. He got back close because he recognized his error, started reversing path, and started getting the economy getting better and better and better rapidly. And that's how it could get as close as it got. But remember that, right? If he had not done that, he wins with ease in November of 2020. The economy is horrendous. Now, even with a good economy in 1952, even with a good economy in 1968, the incumbent party still lost, and lost badly from an electoral college perspective. Electoral college wipeout. Why? One case, unpopular foreign war, 1952. Another case, domestic unrest, 1968. Now you combine a terrible economy. Oh, by the way, and a terrible economy with high cost of living. That's only happened once in the modern American presidential history, 1980. How did that work out for Jimmy Carter, who, by the way, the polls showed was leading all the way up until Election Day? He lost by 9 points. 9. Crushed. And he was more likable than Kamala Harris. He was more proven as a candidate than Kamala Harris. He could appeal more to swing voters than Kamala Harris. So, I mean, and he had a little version of foreign policy disaster in the Iranian hostage crisis. But was it on scale with a war in Europe and a war in the Middle East that might drag us into World War III and open borders that has complete domestic chaos? That's more like 1968, the domestic chaos we're experiencing. So you got 1968's domestic chaos, you got 1952's foreign war concerns, and 1968's foreign war concerns, combined with 1932 and 2008 economics. From a pure betting perspective, if it was reversed and this was Trump running, I'd tell you that Trump has zero chance. I mean, it's 5% or less. They need a miracle. They need to risk destroying the world. Maybe they will. But I don't think that's a high probability.